Okay, guys, you have made it to the final exam review. So, like I said so many times already, make sure you guys are focusing on new content. There's really not going to be that much for review when it comes to cumulative content. So this is, again, for you guys. I'm just going to really briefly go through what I think you should really focus on. And hopefully, the words on my slides can kind of give you some assistance. Now, this section is full of pathways. You guys know I love a good pathway, so really try to make your own. I've structured it a little bit, and this is kind of my thought process, but do try to come up with your own. All right. Okay. So insulin versus glucagon and how that affects blood sugar, right? So you have high blood sugar. What is that going to stimulate? Where does it come from? And then what is the final effect that it's going to have on blood sugar? Let me move my face. Okay, right. So we have, if we have high blood sugar, out of these key terms down here, what's going to happen? And then what is the final result of blood sugar? Is it going to increase or decrease? So make sure you're using alpha cells versus beta cells. Is it glucagon? Is it insulin? And where are those things coming from? Okay. Fluid retention pathway, another pathway, right? So your body starts to increase in body temperature and then you start to sweat. What happens from there and how does that lead to the final output of decreased urine output, right? So these are just in alphabetical order. They're not in chronological order. So put them in order yourself. So once you start sweating, what is that first trigger? And then, from there, where are all these things located? What do they do? And then can you put this in the correct order for the pathway? All right. Again, pause these when you want to kind of take a look at the slides and use it for your own reference. Another pathway, so electrolyte pathway, it happens at the same time that our fluid retention pathway is going on. And the biggest trigger is sweat. It's going to have the same output, a decrease in urine output, but there's a couple of different hormones and other things involved. Again, this isn't in chronological order, it's in alphabetical order. So see, if you can put them all the right order and do you know where they're all coming from? All right. So this is actually a flow chart I made when I was studying in undergrad, and I made something similar to it. So starting with growth hormone, where does it come from? What releases it? And then what is its actions once it's released? So it has direct actions, which causes, these direct things to be affected by it, but also acts indirectly. And growth hormone will target another hormone, growth hormone will target another organ. And then what does that organ release in order to have effects on this, right? So again, this whole section, probably every piece of information that you get from this section can either be made into a pathway or a flow chart. And that's just the easiest way to visualize a lot of this stuff. Another thing that's really important on this exam are equations. So you are able to have all your notes in front of you. Why not just have a formula sheet, right? Write out every equation for each of these. There might be more, so make sure you know all of them. From there, can you identify what each variable is? And is it usually given to you already? If not, what can you plug into it for it to make sense? So make sure you have all of those in one place and make sure you know how to calculate it if it's something you have to do in lecture. Electrical conduction pathway of the heart. So our favorite, right? We talked about how it starts at up here on the top and how it travels all the way through, and that's going to cause certain atrial depolarization or ventricular depolarization. So making sure that we know where everything is going and what is activating it, right? Okay, so we didn't actually talk a lot about blood pressure in lab, but it is something you focused on in lecture. So know the difference between systolic and diastolic blood pressure, right? Which one is affected by the cardiac output and which one is affected by TPR, or total peripheral resistance. And then what are some typical changes that we see in aerobic exercise? And then what about during resistance training? How are they similar? How are they different? And then how is it different in each part of the body? So in resistance training, how is it different from the upper to the lower part of the body. Ignore that you don't have answers in Lab 7. That's geometry. So yeah, make sure you guys can answer those questions. Another pathway, and again, something we didn't really talk about, but cardiovascular drift. So we talk about the relationship between cardiac output, heart rate, and stroke volume. So at what point does that stroke volume tap out? And what does heart rate have to do in order to maintain the cardiac output? And what kind of exercise intensity does this occur at? So that's really important. Factors increasing stroke volume, because remember we talked about how stroke volume is actually part of the equation for VO2 max. So if you increase your stroke volume, you can increase your VO2 max, and it's by doing all of these things. So where do these go? What does it lead to? What can you put where? And again, this is my own flow chart. Use it as an example, make your own, whatever you want to do. Again, talking about factors affecting aerobic performance. So, you know, there's five listed that he talks about that you can manipulate in order to change aerobic performance. Know which one's the most important, know which ones are kind of like irrelevant if you don't change them too much, and then which one talks about the law of diminishing returns. And then finally, so ignore this like kind of first half, the VO2 and the VI thing, but know how to convert VO2 to METs to kcals burned, right? He busts out his blackboard for that part. He does the equation with you guys, so know how to solve it as well. That is it, guys. Good luck on your final exam. I know you guys are going to ace it. You guys will be fantastic. Send me questions if you guys want to work on this, put it in order. I can definitely let you know if you're on the right track. If not, it was amazing teaching you guys this semester, and take care in everything you do. Bye, guys.